entire illusion. So Luka was at first bitterly disappointed when his father, the storyteller Rashid Khalifa, told him they would not be going to the show. "Unkind to animals," Rashid explained. "Once it may have had its glory days, but these days the GROF has fallen far from grace." The lioness had tooth decay, Rashid told Luka, and the tigress was blind, and the elephants were hungry, and the rest of the circus menagerie was just plain miserable. The ringmaster of the Great Rings of Fire was the terrifying and enormous Captain Arg, a.k.a. Grand Master Flame. The animals were so scared of the crack of his whip that the lioness with toothache and the blind tigress continued to jump through hoops and play dead, and the skinny elephants still made pachyderm pyramids for fear of angering him. For Arg was a man who was quick to anger and slow to laugh. And even when he put his cigar-smoking head into the lioness's yawning mouth, she was too scared to bite it off just in case it decided to kill her from inside her belly. Rashid was walking Luka home from school, wearing, as usual, one of his brightly coloured bush shirts. This one was vermilion. And his beloved battered Panama hat, and listening to the story of Luka's day. Luka had forgotten the name of the tip of South America and had labelled it Hawaii in a geography test. However, he had remembered the name of his country's first president and spelled it correctly in a history test. He had been smacked on the side of the head by Ratchet's hockey stick during games. On the other hand, he had scored 2 goals in the match and defeated his enemy's team. He had also finally got the hang of snapping his fingers properly, so that they made a satisfying cracking noise. So there were pluses and minuses. Not a bad day overall. But it was about to become a very important day indeed, because this was the day they saw the circus parade going by on its way to raise its big top near the banks of the mighty Silsila. The Silsila was the wide, lazy, ugly river with mud-coloured water that flowed through the city not far from their home. The sight of the droopy cockatoos in their cages and the sad dromedaries humping along the street touched Luka's generous young heart. But saddest of all, he thought, was the cage in which a mournful dog and a doleful bear stared wretchedly all about. Bringing up the rear of the cavalcade was Captain Arg, with his pirate's hard black eyes and his barbarian's untamed beard. All of a sudden, Luka became angry, and he was a boy who was slow to anger and quick to laugh. When Grandmaster Flame was right in front of him, Luka shouted at the top of his voice, "May your animals stop obeying your commands, and your rings of fire eat up your stupid tent!" Now it so happened that the moment when Luka shouted out in anger was one of those rare instants when by some inexplicable accident all the noises of the universe fall silent at the same time. The cars stop honking, the scooters stop putt-puttering, the birds stop squawking in the trees, and everyone stops talking at once. And in that magical hush, Luka's voice rang out as clearly as a gunshot, and his words expanded until they filled the sky, and perhaps even found their way to the invisible home of the Fates, who, according to some people, rule the world. Captain Arg winced as if somebody had slapped him on the face, and then he stared straight into Luka's eyes, giving him a look of such blazing hatred that the young boy was almost knocked off his feet. Then the world started making its usual racket again, and the circus parade moved on, and Luka and Rashid went home for dinner. But Luka's words were still out there in the air, doing their secret business. That night it was reported on the TV news that, in an astonishing development, the animals of the GROF circus had unanimously refused to perform. In a crowded tent, and to the amazement of costumed clowns and plainclothes customers alike, they rebelled against their master in an